welcome to...
Hi.
No, you're not supposed to say anything. My time.
Oh, yes, okay.
My time. Especially you, Zach. Cookie Pocket, this podcast is about film, episode 30, which is 40.
Yes,
And
there we go.
we are talking about Were Eagles There? And Where Eagles There is a 1968 British World War II action espionage film directed by Brian G. Hutton and adapted pretty accurately from Alistair MacLean's novel, of whom is also the screenwriter, because he's so excited about this story for some reason. And he follows... no, he doesn't follow them. The film follows 7 Allied commandos that are tasked with infiltrating Schloss Adler, which is a German alpine castle housing every Nazi Clint Eastwood could ever kill, only accessible by cable cars. And they are tasked with retrieving a U.S. Army Brigadier General before he's successfully interrogated about the Allied plans to invade Europe. Dun dun dun. Most of what I just said eventually becomes untrue, as 3 of the commandos turn out to be German spies, and the real British mission becomes apparent towards the film's end. So it stars Richard Burton as Major Smith, Clint Eastwood as Lieutenant Schaefer, Mary Ure, which is Robert Shaw's wife, Christian, by the way, because I know you love Jaws, as Mary Ellison, and Ingrid Pitt, Zach's love life, I guess, as Heidi Schmidt. Patrick Wymark as Colonel Turner, Michael Hordern as Vice Admiral Roland, and Darren Nesbitt as Major von Happen. So, what do you guys think of the movie?
Okay, I'm going to jump in early here, because I can tell that the tide is already turning towards me becoming the villain of this episode. So I just want to say that I did enjoy this movie. I think there's lots of exciting action. Yeah, but I think the problem here comes with the plot and the characters, which I think are very, very, very thin. Pretty much everything here is defined by, we have to do the mission, we have to blow up the thing. And all of the characters are pretty much solely defined by, we have to do the mission, we have to blow up the thing. Except for Richard Burton, who occasionally wanders around back with Mary to have a bit of a snog in the woodshed. But that's not really, dimension. Pretty much every character, there's no emotion or backstory or really anything to these characters beyond, I am G.I. Joe action man and I will shoot the Nazis. And for me, at 2.5 hours, that became pretty draining. There are some theoretically interesting plot twists thrown in here, but because all the characters are so shallow, for me, I couldn't really get into that because I had no real investment in these characters or their betrayals or their twists or turns because there was so little emotion and depth to them. So it's exciting. If you're looking for an action extravaganza punch-up in the style of kind of World War II serials where the troops always win the day and get them Nazis in the end, this is the movie for you. But I think if you're looking for a story with a little more depth, I think kind of those Indiana Jones style movies that take a lot of inspiration from movies like this and sort of perfect the model are maybe more what you should go for. 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Interesting. I have to at least somewhat agree with Mitchell because if you played back everything you just said and took out the number, I would have assumed that you had given it a 2. I do think there's a little bit of discordance between the number and the description, but at the same time, I sort of agree with Zach. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was exciting and fun, but I share some of Zach's concerns. I do think the men are all kind of just manly men, which is fine, but it does become, a little differentiation would be nice. I think Clint Eastwood probably stands out the most just because he's Clint Eastwood, and he's the most interesting at being a manly man, in my opinion. But the others are all just kind of in the group, which is fine. And I think the women kind of pick up the slack, which is typical in a lot of film noir stuff as well. The femme fatale is always kind of more interesting than the other characters. So in that regard, I think that's made up for. And I don't think it's super important. Like, this film is not a character study. It's not episode 1 in a trilogy. It's an action film, and it's fun. And the action is really good, and the explosions are exciting, and the guns are cool. and I had fun. So as far as what this film set out to do, I think it accomplishes all of it pretty handily. And I would disagree with Zach's point about the plot. I think it was, pretty engaging, honestly, and a lot of twists and turns and subverting expectations. That's always fun. And the other part of Zach's review that really to quote Peter Griffin, really grinded my gears was when he said that this film had, and I quote, had seemingly little to nothing of any import to say. And I struggle with that comment a lot, because I don't think this film is all that self-important, and I don't think it's claiming to have some overarching moral Criterion Collection level opus message in here. I just think it kind of is what it is, and what it is a entertaining war film that is well made with pretty strong performances and very exciting action, and that's maybe a little long. I kind of agree that it drags a little bit, but outside of that, I think it's pretty great. Especially for a film from the 60s, it doesn't really drag that much, given how old it is. So I give it a 3.5 out of 5. If I saw it again, I might even give it a 4.
Wow.
And I think it does exactly what it intends to do, and it doesn't pretend to be some high moral signal or art that should be revered. It's just a good action film.
Okay. I'm glad you both liked it. No, I understand. I mostly understand Zach's perspective, and I understand your criticism. My problem with said criticism is that a lot of war films do a lot of what this movie does that came out shortly before or even shortly after this. They do it a lot worse and a lot simpler. Like, the plot is comparably complicated compared to most war film plots. I mean, example 1A, subsection I, is A Bridge Too Far, okay? Zach, you gave A Bridge Too Far a 4, all right?
Yes.
And go ahead, explain yourself.
Okay, but the thing that I think that distinguishes A Bridge Too Far is A Bridge Too Far has, themes in its script. It has characters with some sort of emotional attachments and motivations and depth and character struggles. And I don't really think this movie has that. This movie is basically a 2.5-hour episode of G.I. Joe, which is fun, I suppose, but I'm looking for some more meat on those bones, which I think Bridge on the River Kwai has, and this movie does not.
A Bridge Too Far, but yeah.
Or A Bridge Too Far, rather, yes.
Yeah. All the bridges, except when there's no Sterling Bridge at the Battle of Sterling.
Yes.
Then Zach, it's mightily frustrating.
I like me
That's
a
what
bridge.
it is.
If
It's
you've got
the
a bridge
bridge
in your movie, I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay. All right. I mean, I don't see much of a difference in my opinion. I don't think the themes are that prevalent in either of them, to be totally honest. I feel like this functions far more as a James Bond film than a World War II film. It definitely uses World War II as a backdrop, which I think is fine. I think there's a lot of, historically a lot of espionage that was done. There's actually a lot of, weird accuracy with stuff. Like, James Bond was partially inspired by a Serbian triple agent that was real. Yeah. And that man just, played everybody in real life. But, so, I mean, the beginnings of espionage and OSS from the U.S. and MI6 and stuff like that. I think that's fine. I think it works great for the time period. And everybody loves World War II in the 60s, so everybody's going to be excited about it. I gave this film a 4.5 out of 5. I heavily enjoy the action sequences. I think every single one is hilarious as much as it is interesting to look at. The second I saw the car randomly explode, the Kubelwagen, as it were, explode as it went down the thing, just for no reason, just explodes. Yeah. I'm like, yep, I know what I'm getting into now. This is like pre-Michael Bay, pretty much.
Kind of, yeah.
And I did not understand the plot at all the first time I saw this. I was a little bit on the younger side, so I didn't understand. The next time I watched it, I definitely did. And I read the book, and the book definitely is great as supplementary to this. I read a review that said that they actually listened to the book while they watched the film. and they thought that it was a lot more intriguing and there's a lot more character development. So I'll give you that, Zach. There's a lot more character development in the book because there has to be, because you can't just be like Richard Burton is Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood is Clint Eastwood, and So and I think that those are two amazing actors for these parts. Honestly, I think that Richard Burton has a sense of making everything super clever and sounding like he knows way too much all the time. And I think that adds to his personality. I feel like him being exaggerated in that way to a point where it's almost unrealistic is actually more interesting than it is believable, because believability is thrown out the window like the first 40 minutes. And then, Clint Eastwood is like, I think he's an obvious inclusion. I think having a very American manly man inserted in there, wondering what the hell's going on. Why am I doing this? Okay, I'm going to go kill 78 Nazis now.
Yeah.
And then...
Not going to scratch on me.
Yep. And I think he does way better in spaghetti westerns and things like that. I think that's really his hallmark. I think his personality really lends itself to that. But I feel like there is some element that was pretty intriguing to have him amongst all of these British people and just, not understanding anything, I think is pretty funny. And then the humor. There's also a lot of humor that's very natural. And I don't think it feels inserted at all. And there's not very much humor in the book, so I feel like it's a lot better. I think it works a lot better here, and I think just little quips and things like that keep the dialogue more fresh than it would be, instead of just being like, we have to do this and we have to do that all the time. But yeah, I guess I'll start with my first question. But anyway, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's really a great war espionage film. I think it's definitely a good time period a period piece or whatever, like Christian said. And I don't think it's aged that bad. Obviously you're gonna notice, they're not actually on a train car or whatever. I keep saying train car.
They are in some shots though. That was frustrating because there's some really nice wide shots, and then the rest of the time it's this horribly composited blue screen shot.
Well, you're a horribly positive blue screen shot.
It wasn't that bad, Zach.
There are some it's
from the 60s.
The main one isn't. That's not an excuse. There are really good movies from this time period with special effects.
Stop it. Yes, but okay. You know what? This film is often considered a classic, Zach, and sometimes considered a cultural shift when it comes to action films, turning away from typical war drama. When it's like, if anybody's ever seen Battleground, that's like a perfect example of like, everybody's a hero and the Americans have to win, or I'm literally going to kill everybody if the Americans do not win. And there's like a catchphrase in it that's like, I don't know what they say, but they have like catchphrases and stuff. But it goes away from those types of films, and it's actually akin a lot more to Clint Eastwood films, and this is a lot more focused on like James Bondy kind of stuff. And there's a lot of 60s influence in here. Some of it's more obvious than other things, like Clint Eastwood's hair. He's like, I don't want to get rid of my hair, so he keeps his hair. And like everybody's hair is kind of in a 60s style. Sometimes the costumes are iffy. And just in general, the conversations don't feel period correct a good amount of the time. So I've read reviews, and also I agree that this is a big cultural shift. But anyway, I'm actually going to get to the question now. So this involved stuntman Yakima Kanut. I don't know if Zach knows who that is. Probably not. Who shot most of the action scenes as a secondary director. And then stuntman Alf Joint, who doubled for Burton. Award-winning composer Ron Goodwin, and Oscar nominee Arthur Ibbotson, who worked on the cinematography. Do you feel like this is a high-quality action film for the time? And how do the action scenes hold up for you?
Good question, Mitchell. Well, I noted that the City Misproductions review suggests that this film is flatly shot. And, maybe it's because I'm such a devotee to George, who just puts things in front of the camera and then starts fooling. But I was completely unbothered by how this was shot, personally. I think it works fine. I like seeing the guns go pew-pew, and I like seeing the explosions. And I don't know much about terminology of how you might describe different shots. I know what a close-up means. But, I'm kind of just here to see the things that happen as they happen. And I think the presentation was fine. I don't think I was especially bored, and none of the editing felt really jarring to me. So I thought the action worked, and I was impressed by how exciting it was for it being several decades old.
I so I'm not gonna parry. I'm not gonna be combative here, but I am gonna disagree a little bit. I think what's happening in the action scenes, the actual content that's being filmed, is very exciting. Like I said, there are some great wide shots in that kind of gondola fight scene that are very exciting. There's some very big, impressive explosions, both on set and on model sets that look very nice. I think really where the action scenes in this film suffer are the cinematography and the editing. Editing being a big one. There's really a lot of the fight scenes in this have no real sense of tension or pace in their editing. A particular example, there's a scene where Clint Eastwood is just mowing down Nazis in a corridor, and one of them throws a grenade over there. And there's no attempt to make it feel like, Clint, you better pick that up or it's going to blow up. It just kind of sits there, and then he leans down and picks it up and throws it back, and then it just blows up at the other end of the hallway. No tension at all. And I think I can't help but look at moments like that and think, oh, what a wasted opportunity, because such a big part of action scenes is feeling the stress or the tension of a character in that situation and putting you in that adrenaline-fueled moment. And if you don't have that tension in the editing, that's not going to be there. And the cinematography, it's mostly fine. It's not exactly visually stimulating, but mostly it's fine. But a big example for me of where I thought it was kind of weak is the gondola fight, unfortunately. As many nice wide shots as they have, a lot of that fight is just this awkward flat wide shot of Richard Burton's splayed on top of the cable car with one guy barely in frame on each side, just kind of flinging his wrists and his ankles around, and it's just, it looks awkward and not dynamic, and shots last too long and aren't really all that exciting. So I really do, maybe it's because a lot of that was filmed by a stunt coordinator who maybe didn't necessarily have a great experience as a director, but I think there are great action sequences in this that are awkwardly shot and mean that they don't impact as well.
Okay. I think the awkwardness of the shots are a lot less important just because of the content of the actual action is so unique compared to most war films of the time. Zachary. I don't think, when are you ever going to see, and up to 1968, when do you ever see a gondola fight? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, I'm literally going to use Empire Strikes Back, okay? Yeah, I almost don't care as long as I can see what's going on and understand what's going on with Luke losing his hand and finding out that Vader is his dad. I think that scene is so impactful and so stimulating by itself that you don't really need to have it filmed very good for it to be good. I just need to have like a good angle of Vader's face when he says it, you know, and with his hand. And I don't think it's as important to me. I don't think it's as important.
That's possible.
And I think the bigger the explosion, the better. I should mention that this film is more accurate in its portrayal of grenades as others. I should say because once you pull the pin on the actual grenade, there's a good amount of time afterwards until it explodes. So the time that Clint Eastwood took was almost calculated to how long he could throw it before it explodes. Obviously, when he throws it back, it's going to explode because that's what's supposed to happen, and Clint Eastwood cannot die. And I think it helps so that film acknowledges that Clint Eastwood isn't going to die, so it throws as much at the screen at Clint Eastwood as possible to have Lieutenant Schaefer be struggling in the situation and having it be almost as believable as possible that he could die. So I think in general, I think the director, I think everybody, including Clint Eastwood, knew that he couldn't die, and that it was important to portray the amount of tension by literally throwing sheer violence at him, and having the scenes with him be as bombastic and as interesting to look at as possible. I don't think the cinematography is that bad. I mean, you said that it was fine. I think it's fine. There wasn't anything to me as the average Joe that was particularly bothered by anything. Just because of how surprising and impactful the action scenes were. And, you know, I mean, what are those shots called where it's just the plain background? I think it's called something, isn't it? When it's just like the flat backgrounds. You know, when like when they're driving the motor, like the getaway scenes.
Gives a term, any term.
Oh, like a composite shot, like a CSO shot.
I think a CSO. I'm pretty sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think those work fine, and you know,
rear projection. I think maybe is what you're thinking of. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But I think those work fine. I really, really like the action. I like these action scenes more than most World War II war films that had come out up to that point. And I think that, and I should mention about the grenade thing, by the way, that grenades don't explode; they just blow shrapnel everywhere, essentially.
Okay.
But anyway,
Zach, I wanted to also add an additional parry to Zach's grenade note.
Ooh.
And I swear, I'm not just picking on you to pick on you, Zach. This is a real comment for once. When I think of film as a visual medium, I think of that visual as just that, a medium in which you express something. And when you see a grenade thrown in Clint Eastwood's direction that lands near him, you know that he's in danger because you saw a grenade thrown in Clint Eastwood's direction, and grenades are dangerous and can kill people. So,
Yes.
so what I'm trying to say is that you already have all the information you should need to feel suspense or tension on the character's behalf. I don't think you need like a panning in angle on the grenade and then a close up on Eastwood's eyes as they palpitate or something. Like, you don't really need to milk that moment more to understand the danger that he's already in.
So, okay, what I will say here is that yes, it's a medium, but a big part of medium is delivery, and editing is a big part of that delivery. And it matters how long you see something, what way you see something. Every part of this matters. To dismiss the method of visually presenting something in a film as long as they get what's happening. Like, I feel like that's kind of devaluing film as a genre. Because the visuals are the whole point.
That's not what I mean.
Otherwise, just listen to a radio drama.
No, I understand that. I still think circumstantially that is more or less applicable, and the delivery is more or less important. And I think in this example it is less important. But I understand where you're coming from.
Also, I really like the wide shot on the gondola, by the way, and I think it's reminiscent of a crap ton of Bond movies, because there's every time Bond is about to fall down, they always do a wide shot. Every time.
Well, maybe
Except
I should mention
recently,
here
like the
that
past
I also
20 years.
don't really like James Bond.
Okay.
So
That
maybe
would
our
be-
audience will skewer me now, but I don't really like James Bond.
Okay.
And this did unfortunately remind me of some of the aspects of Bond that I don't really like.
Okay. And I really liked when he hit him in the face and he was bleeding and it looked like he was about to fall. I think that was very impactful, much like the grenade scene, that it feels like they spend like 3 or 4 seconds too long on it, almost like at first, and then it's like, oh man, like that grenade really should have blown up now, and then he throws it and you're like, oh, he did it. And in my opinion, that is an opposite effect for me than it would be for you, Zach. I think that spending more time on the actual on the actual thing, just more than that would have been cliched at that time, I think is impactful. So
Yeah. So I will say the moment you referred to on the gondola where he's clinging on and about to fall and he's got a bloodied face, that's a great tense moment. What takes away from that for me, or it doesn't necessarily take away from it, but I wish we could have more moments like that with the heroes. More moments where you feel like they're in danger as well, because at least I get to a certain point in this where our characters have mowed down so many Nazis without getting a single scratch on them or ever feeling like they're really in danger to any tangible degree, that at a certain point you kind of just think, it'll be fine, it doesn't matter. And like, for me, I'd like more of those moments where maybe we got Richard Burton with a bloody nose looking like he's about to go over the edge. Those moments where you think this could go either way, those are what grip me more than the spectacle I think that this might be going for.
okay. Well, this
Oh,
leans.
there's the word. Zach
this-
doesn't like spectacle. It's all been solved.
This
It's all been solved.
This leans into my next segues.
Oh,
like,
great.
Like a Paul Blart segue into my
Oh.
next question. Okay. I think that what you just mentioned, Zach, that is usually a problem for some people that don't like action movies that are like this, that follow that cliche when the heroes are untouchable, are the twists. So there are a few twists that, at the time of the film's release, actually confused a lot of critics and considered it as both the film's and the book's greatest weakness. I know Zach thought the plot was a pretty big weakness, but how effective were these twists? And do you think they were creative, lackluster, or confusing, or anything else? Any other adjectives?
All right, I'm gonna be honest. I was confused. I was pretty confused.
Okay.
I had to think, and I had to read the synopsis to make sure I was right, and I was right. But I had to think about it, and I was confused at first.
Yeah.
So, I guess I wouldn't say that it was like terrible or derailed the film, but I was a little bit confused. I don't know if it's I can't say with precision whether that's my fault or the film's fault. So I guess I would just say indifferent.
I'll say on the first watch that you're kind of thinking that this is a popcorn action film, and then that jarring sudden, like, you have to hang on to every word. Like, my dad was like, man, if you go to the bathroom, you are so screwed.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to know what's going on. But you have to hang on to Richard Burton's every word all of a sudden. That could be considered jarring. I feel like that is entirely eliminated after a few watches, but I'm not going to take I have to listen to a song more than once to review it properly. Christian philosophy. But go ahead, Zach.
Oh, wow. So what I will say is, Mitchell, you referred to my thinking the plot was a weakness. My thinking of the plot as a weakness was more for its lack of emotional depth. Okay. I think the twists are relatively intelligently executed. I wish they were revealed in a bit of a more exciting way than Richard Burton just kind of walking around a table telling us about them. But I do think they're well played, and they actually kind of save the movie from a criticism. Because early on, I was kind of like, okay, can we have more with this group other than just Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood? And then eventually, when the twist came around and it was revealed that these people were actually turncoats, I thought, oh, okay, all right, I am okay with that now. I'm okay with us not having time with the spies. So it kind of saved it from a criticism there, and I was fine with we're not actually going to rescue a major general, colonel. I can't remember what they said he was.
Yeah,
he's actually just a corporal who's an actor. I was fine with that. I think technically the twists are very well executed. I wish they could have been revealed in a more exciting way. I do think, yes, if you go to the bathroom, you're going to have no idea what's going on after those scenes. But I will say you'd have to go to the bathroom for a very long time because Richard Burton does walk around that table talking about the twists for quite a few minutes. So I wish they were revealed in a more interesting way. But the twist, technically, I did not have a problem with.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Mitchell. They were only relatively intelligently executed.
I think they were, for the time and for the genre, I think they were executed wonderfully. If this was thrown into a popcorn film I didn't give a crap about, I think I would give a crap about the film. I would start liking it a lot more. If the Tomorrow War, if Chris Pratt, just becomes an alien in the middle of the movie, I'm going to be really excited, I know he's not, right? And I'm still going to, criticize the film a lot, but, I haven't seen it, by the way.
Oh, okay. Anyway. I was going to say stay tuned for Week in Review, but...
No, yeah. That would be amazing. No, I really, really liked the twist, and I had to watch this 3 times to fully understand what was going on. And basically, if anybody who hasn't seen this, essentially, you should. Richard Burton essentially makes up a story based on his previous alias as a fake spy for the Germans, as a double agent, and he uses that alias to his advantage to convince the Germans and convince the spies that he already suspected that were on his team, on the team for the British team, to write down the names of top double agents working for the Germans for the British, if that makes any sense to you. And I really, really me and my dad, even this time, we almost forgot how he knew. But one of the top German generals knew about Richard Burton's character, as the German spy, as the alias. So he was describing him as if he was actually a German spy when he's actually a triple agent. So I think that is great. I can definitely see why it wouldn't be as effective if it's kind of just Richard Burton standing around, but I feel like he's such a captivating actor, and he just makes dialogue sound so interesting to me that I think it works fine for the scene, and I feel like it's jarring in all the right ways the more times you watch the film. in my opinion. But although I can understand if it kind of just came across as a big dump of, guess what, this is how this actually is. I have the whole movie script right here. And he kind of just tells everybody what the situation is. And then also I wanted to talk about briefly the final twist, which was kind of, you could kind of suspect it. If you watch Carnaby, the main guy that selected the British troops that were actually German spies, because he himself is one of the top German spies, that was not written down in the book. When they actually get when Burton gets the names, he looks suspicious early on. This is a really lend to the actor as well. He looks really suspicious and like just keeps making weird faces whenever he's finding out things about their actual situation. When Smith keeps radioing in, broadsword to Danny Boy. And he's like, oh, I wonder, like, he was really frustrated. You could see it in his eyes that when Smith wasn't answering the radio anymore, because he was like, oh man, he went rogue because he found out about the German spies and things like that. So I think that adds some very unexpected layers to this action film. And I think it's highly unexpected. And I think it really, really works for the general theme. And there were some definite hints that were dropped away early on that you can definitely pick up on after later watches. So I'm glad you guys were pretty good with the twist. I know it's a little bit confusing, but so there's one obvious thing. Everybody speaks English, and you can kind of understand why they all speak English, because of the twist thing wouldn't really work too much, because then it'd just be Richard Burton speaking 50 different languages for an hour. But what do you guys think about that? Do you think that was a good decision or not?
I totally understand having them all speak English. What bothered me, though, is the idea that they're meant to be undercover. And I get if you're having everybody, including the Germans, speak English, but at least the Germans have an accent. There's one specific scene where Burton and Eastwood are walking past like a gate, and they start a conversation as cover. Oh, I'm going to talk about this and act totally casual so that this guy won't notice us. And Eastwood goes, yeah, I thought so as well, or whatever, in the most clear American accent.
Yeah.
And I was like, why would they not stop him?
Yeah.
I think the real thing that annoyed me was that they didn't put on German accents, or I think the idea is maybe they're speaking German and you just have to kind of imagine that's their cover, but like have them put on accents, because it distracted me to no end that these people with very clear Allied accents could just wander around this German encampment talking willy-nilly in their native language and native accents, and nobody would go, hey, you, can I see your papers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have to agree with Zach, at least to some extent, but I would say it didn't bother me as specifically as it seemed to have bothered Zach. I pretty quickly just accepted that was something that to be expected, honestly, and something that many other films do, like nobody speaks Russian in Death of Stalin or whatever, and it's certainly better than going the Italian horror route and doing a bunch of very poorly aligned overdubs. So,
well, that's also for a very different reason.
You're for a different reason,
which we addressed in that episode. Check out Suspiria, our episode on Suspiria, if you haven't already.
Or don't.
I agree. Or do. There we
go. It's 2 against 1.
the two scenes that bother me at all are the bridge one, where it's like you're like, are they gonna get caught? Like, why are they speaking English? And then in the bar too. I think that's the first. I believe the bar scene happens first. Then you're like, what was he speaking English with the German? But I think it works after that. You don't really have any scenes where it really required it as much, because like Zach had mentioned, which is a very good point, the accents are really a big part of it. I think the Germans, even if the accents are crap, because 90% of the people watching this are not even gonna know what a German accent is supposed to sound like, and who cares, right? Okay, so and then later on, the Germans, the random extras just shouting are actually speaking German, and I think that
I didn't recognize that.
Yeah, I did apparently later on, and you can like hear them like bickering and yelling, unless when they're actually speaking important dialogue. But that definitely bothered me a little bit. But like I said, it's like Christian said, it's just something you kind of have to accept, and I think it helps with the twist. And just you want to hear Clint Eastwood just talk like I've got something in my eyes and I don't know what to do about it, and I'm gonna keep squinting. what the hell's going on here, man?
What's that label on the
Second-
other side of the room say?
Second-rate punk, huh? All British operation next time, huh? But that's what people watch the film for, okay?
Yeah,
Clint Eastwood
Fair enough.
and Richard Burton and Mary and Ingrid
And
Pitt.
Pitt.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, any final thoughts? I had one more question. We kind of already answered it. So, any other thoughts?
Final thoughts. Yeah, I do have one final thought, and that is not every film is judged by the same criteria, which is something
Yes.
that you two helped me fully understand, honestly, when we were still talking about films early on. And I would encourage you, Zach, to just think about that. In all sincerity, I don't think this film is obligated to be a moral message to everyone that watches it. And I think the idea that all the media or much or even some of the media people consume must inform their moral priorities is kind of a skewed idea, and even a frightening one if you think about how easily influenced people are if they approach everything with that mindset. So I would just say this doesn't attempt to be any more than it is, and what it is entertaining and I think well executed and worth your time if you like a war film. So 3.5 out of 5.
Okay, Zach.
I will say, for one thing, I would like to clarify that I do not judge all films by the same criteria.
Yes.
I certainly don't judge The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai by the same criteria that I do Schindler's List or
for the
something
next
like
for
that.
the next hour,
Um,
we have to have Zach just explain why he likes Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. And you
Maybe
will never
we'll make
listen
that
to
a
him again.
special.
You
We'll
will
make
never
that
listen
an
to him
additional
again.
episode.
No.
But I will say, I'm not going to steer anyone away from this movie. It's got some good action. It's exciting. If you're looking for that kind of action man appeal, you will find it here. But, as I mentioned in my original thoughts, I do think that it's lacking depth, theme, character, emotion, the things that make a movie entertaining and relatable for a lot of people. So I mean, if you want action, if you're somebody who watches Commando and says, yeah, that's my kind of movie, then this is probably your kind of movie as well. But if you're somebody who wants more of an emotional grasp on your characters, maybe give this one a pass, or maybe read up on it a little bit first before watching it to see if it really would be your kind of thing.
You're lacking depth and emotion.
If you like 3-minute scenes with helicopters that shouldn't be there but are there because it surprises everybody,
Yeah.
you will love this movie. I'm just kidding. That scene is very cool, and you want to know why, Zach? Because I think planes listing whatever you said are cool, and I think helicopters are cool. I think
Mitchell, you're
castles are
regressing.
cool. I think cable cars are cool. I think British people are cool occasionally.
Oh, great.
I
Oh.
think American people are cool most of the time. So, all right. If I see another explosion, I'll give it a 5.
All right.
All right. If
This
I
is-
see Mary Orr with a machine gun again, I'll give it a 5. There's only so much keeping this back, Zach. All right, more
This
explosions.
has been a few
Yes.
of Mitchell's favorite things.
Sure has.
And then he doesn't
yes.
feel so bad.
if just look up a general synopsis and talk with people that have seen this, and if it interests you at all, and you should definitely see it. Definite reminder that it's 1968. Okay, so there's going to be some things that are obvious that are make it the time period. But if you don't like depth, I don't know. If you like action films that are anything like this, and you like World War II stuff, because there's a lot of accurate things in this, and a lot of inaccurate things, but a lot of accurate things, then you will like this. So I'd say anybody who likes action movies, I should give it a chance. So I guess we're on to our first thingy. I keep forgetting what we call them all the time.
The Week in Review.
Week in review.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll leave this one off if that's okay. And
Go ahead.
to none of our avid listeners who love my Cinemator, we'll be returning soon. I got some Criterion stuff coming, and it's very, very, very exciting. So stay tuned. But Week in Review. Okay. I recently watched The Rescuers, a Disney classic. 1977, if you can believe that. And I do think I've seen this one before, but it was a long time ago, at least 10 years ago, if not more. I only vaguely remember a couple of the characters, but I really, really enjoyed it. I like the soft rock touches here and there. I love the visual hilarity of an albatross huffing and puffing as it tries to take off, and I love the straight-manedness of lead man mouse. What's his name? Bernard. Yeah.
Bernard. Yeah.
He reminds me of a grandfather type character, and I had a lot of fun. I think it's a tremendous Disney classic that should not be overlooked as much as it is. I gave it a 4 out of 5, and I'd recommend it to pretty much anyone. I think it's very widely enjoyable.
All right. I've already recommended this to you, but don't sleep on The Rescuers Down Under. It's a great sequel.
Yes, sir.
Now, to make a sharp pivot from animated children's movie to dark serial killer film, I watched Frailty yesterday, which was Bill Paxton's directorial debut, and sadly the only movie that he ever directed before he died. And it is pretty good. Paxton stars in it as a very caring, loving Midwestern father who one night has a dream that God speaks to him and tells him that it's his job to kill demons disguised as human beings. And he gets his 2 very young sons involved under the idea that these really are demons that he's killing and not human people. But throughout most of the film, it's left very ambiguous whether Dad really is on a mission from God or if he's just lost it and is killing real frightened people. And it's great. Paxton plays that role perfectly, where he seems like the perfect dad, but there's just he has this compulsion to do this horrible, obscene thing. And for most of the movie, I really liked how it handled his motivation, where it's pretty ambiguous if this is some kind of a motivation from a higher power, and if these people really are evil in some way, or if he really is just mentally ill. Until the ending. I think the ending takes away a lot of the good grace of this movie and knocks it down from a 4 to a 3 for me, but I do still recommend it for everything except that ending. Matthew McConaughey is great in it. Bill Paxton is great in it, as I mentioned, and Bill Paxton's direction also shows great promise. I think it's a real shame he never got a chance to direct anything else. So, yeah, Frailty. Check it out if you have not seen it already.
Well, we're going to make another spin. We're going on the 7 Seas with Johnny Depp.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh my god.
Or Caribbean.
Change it to something else.
No. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, is one of my favorite Disney movies.
Yes.
Of all time. And I have not rated it yet. But I will decide later on. I'll keep everybody in suspense about what I'm going to rate it. But I don't know if you haven't seen it at this point. I guess I don't know, man. Yeah, you probably have bigger problems in life if you haven't seen Curse of the Black Pearl. But it is partially a period piece, I guess. I don't know. I don't think it ages ever. I think it has evidence of Disney films that had come out at that time. I feel like it's Disney live action at its peak. In a lot of ways, I think things have mostly gone downhill since then, in my opinion. But it's got everything in it. Johnny Depp seriously carries it most of the time, and I think all the high adventure jumping around and the score is one of my favorite film scores of all time. I think the setting is very unique, and I think it's approached very well. I feel like there's parts of it that are, but the fact that most of it is like, it's not really a history thing. It kind of like Disney usually takes the general air and the feel of the history of the time and kind of molds it to whatever story they're trying to tell. And I feel like this is not a very generic adventure story. I personally like Dead Man's Chest better. Which is kind of a rare thing. A lot of people like this one better. I think this one's objectively better, but I like Dead Man's Chest better. But anyway, all 3 of them, including At World's End, I know, are all
5 of them.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Anyway, all 3 of them are very good, and highly recommend to anybody who likes swashbuckling anything. It makes you want to be a pirate, okay? And pirates in real life are and were terrible, and they made pirates look awesome. And for that, congratulations, Disney. You did a great job.
I'm sure Jungle Cruise will be just as good, right, guys? Right? Right?
Yep.
Are we doing the
Yes.
What am I-
Let's run on down, I think.
Yes, we're gonna run Zach down into and we're gonna make him say 3 for stuff that he dislikes some more this episode. So, all right, Mitchell, are you ready to start us off?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, cool. 3, 2, 1, go.
Intense Stairs.
3 out of 5.
MGM Lion,
3 out of 5.
Screaming when stealth is important.
2 out of 5.
Snare Drum,
3 out of 5.
6th, 7th, and 8th senses.
3 out of 5.
Lighting,
2 out of 5.
German language not existing.
2 out of 5.
British people actually being okay.
4 out of 5.
A hole is a hole is a hole, as they say.
3 out of 5.
The score,
3 out of 5.
Zach Garrigus is Cartwright Jones.
4 out of 5.
Clint Eastwood is Clint Eastwood.
4 out of 5.
Christian Maric is Lieutenant Schaefer.
3 out of 5.
Incredible, but to the British, very, very simple.
4 out of 5.
Giving up as a strat.
3 out of 5.
Broadsword calling for Danny Boy,
3 out of 5.
Stormtroop and aim again.
3 out of 5.
keeping it an all British operation next time.
4 out of 5.
Sit down, Colonel.
3 out of 5.
60s hairstyles.
3 out of 5.
Mega
1
brain
second.
dining room confusion.
3 out of
Out
5.
of time.
Nice.
Time.
Okay.
I only had a
Okay.
few.
Cool. Done and done. And preview time. Is it me?
Yes, it is
Yes.
you.
Go, Christian.
Oh, are we talking about gems next time?
I think we are. Yes, indeed we are.
Oh, how exciting. Yes, our next episode will be Uncut Gems, directed by the Safdie brothers, starring one Adam Sandler, who delivers... We'll talk about just how good his performance is.
Is it Meet the
but-
Fockers? He's not even. in
No,
Meet the
I don't think he's in that movie.
Click. I don't know. I don't know.
Yes.
Mar-
Yes, he is in Click. The other one's De Niro and Stiller, though.
Yes.
Ben Stiller's the
Anyway.
same person to me. I don't-
Oh, no.
Wow, that's very sad to me. We're gonna have to fix that. Anyway, this is something of a film noir. It's very suspenseful and it's a good time. I think it's on Netflix right now. If you'd like to watch it and then come mosey on down and listen to what we have to say about it.
Okay.
Huzzah. This has been Cookie Pocket. This podcast is about film. Episode 40. Our episodes are too long. Goodbye, Danny boy.